Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Welcome back. Biden fundraisers off of Trump's win in Iowa. Right now, Joe Biden and the Democrats have over $110 million in cash, and they're raising more every day. They're raising it off of fears of Donald Trump. Now, what are the other two main candidates for the Republican nomination, DeSantis and Haley? What are they doing? They know they can't win the nomination. They have a lot of faults to both of them, and they have some good qualities too, especially DeSantis. But one thing is they're not stupid. So either they're being told the wrong thing by the people they trust, their advisors, or they have an ulterior motive. $100-something million, I believe, was spent in Iowa between super PACs and the campaigns. Trump spent a lot less than the other two, Haley and DeSantis. All of that money should be pulled together. They have one common enemy, and that's Biden and the Democrats, the progressive Democrats. They are the enemy. And doing this is just wasting time and money and precious resources. I call for Haley and DeSantis to do the same thing that Ramaswamy did and drop out. Before we go into the story here, I want to mention I have another channel that I put together. This website has not been so good to this channel. I have over 7,000 subs, yet every time I come close to the 4,000 watch hours to get monetized, they push me back down. They just dropped me 500 hours in the last week. So I started another channel, and you'll see the name of it here. And I'm going to leave a link in the description for the new channel. Now, I'm going to continue to do this channel, so have no fear of that, my subscribers, who I appreciate. I get about 1,000 or so subscribers in my new channel. I'm going to start putting videos on that channel just to see if this channel is being suppressed, which I believe it is. I just don't know how much. Called a little experiment. So if you would subscribe to the other channel, there's not going to be much content on it for a while until you get about 1,000 subs. But if you would do that, it would really help me out. Now, let's get back to the story here. Let's listen to what one of the guests has to say.
Anti-Trump voters, but there are going to be a lot of dissatisfied people, Democrats and independents, who may just sit out the election.
That's true. Now, think about this for a minute. You got your independents and your old school Dems. Not big fans of Biden. Some will tolerate Trump. Others can't stand him. The Democrats have a problem. The pro-Palestine people, or I should say anti-Israeli to be more accurate, they represent a huge percent of the progressive base of the Democrats. And Biden has come out publicly, I'm not sure about privately, of course, but publicly in support of Israel, trying to walk the line, but it's not working. His own people, the people that got him in office, the progressive Democrats, are turning against him, which they always do. I mean, you have the old protesters that are starting to lose patience with Biden because they want results. The DOJ and their unfairness of who they raid, who they prosecute, and what kind of sentences these people are getting, especially the January 6 people. People are seeing this, and the unfairness in Trump. He's got a lot of faults, and I am a big Trump supporter. But all this legal, criminal, civil is all absolute nonsense. I mean, the man won huge the Iowa caucus by more than 30 points, turned around and had to go to court all day, and then went to New Hampshire to campaign. I mean, the guy's relentless. He's got the energy of a teenager. They're trying to wear him down. And it's costing tons of money, I have no doubt, for his defense. And between Haley and DeSantis, they're spending huge amounts of money. There's the immigration issue, which is the number one issue across all political affiliation. Immigration is just above the economy. So, you know, there's a lot of Democrats and independents that might sit this one out because they can't stand Trump, but they certainly can't vote for Biden. So let's listen on.
That said, there's a lot of time between now and November, and money does matter. The Biden-Harris campaign announcing Monday it has $117 million in cash on hand. That's the highest total amassed by any Democratic candidate in history at this point in the cycle. A spokesman for the Make America Great Super PAC calling on Republicans to come together saying, quote, Joe Biden's team just announced a massive war chest. Every dollar spent by President Trump's primary losers is a dollar that could be fighting Joe Biden. Once the D.C. rhinos are finished crying in their cocktails over tonight's results, it's time for Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, and Vivek Ramaswamy to face reality and stop wasting time and resources.
I agree 100%. So we go back to the question again. Ramaswamy, the night of the caucus, dropped out of the presidential race, and he's now campaigning with Trump. Why are DeSantis and Haley, why are they staying in? I don't believe they even know they have a million to one shot of winning the nomination. It's tearing the party apart. And I want to mention the other thing. The almost 20% that Nikki Haley got. In Iowa, you can change your registration at the door of the precinct when you go to vote in the primary. Say you're a registered Democrat. You go to a precinct, you change your party affiliation on the spot instantly, and then turn around and vote for Nikki Haley in the primary. You can do that. Now, in upstate, I live in upstate New York, and New York's a closed primary state, but you've got to be registered a certain number of days before the primary, which I think is fair. In Iowa, you can register that minute, which means about half, from what I understand, of Nikki Haley's support of the 20-odd% came from Democrats. The Democrats want Nikki Haley. That should speak volumes. Let's listen on.
Obviously, after this came out, Vivek dropped out and endorsed Trump. But this is a notion that you heard Carly mention, Elise Stefanik saying, we need to come together. We need to pool our resources, time and money to defeat Biden and stop beating up each other. When, or if and when, do you think that happens, Patrice?
Well, I'm looking for mid-February. I think, if President Trump does extremely well in New Hampshire, then, and let's say he gets to South Carolina and absolutely beats, let's say, Nikki Haley, I think it's pretty safe to say that it's done at this point. The Republican campaign for nomination is done. And
Now, let's look at some facts. Doing some digging and some research that I've done and watching, reading articles and watching videos. A big, huge money supporter for the PAC that's endorsing Nikki Haley is the same billionaire that paid for the lawyers that went against Donald Trump when he supposedly sexually assaulted a woman in a dressing room God knows how many years ago. Even the law in New York was changed, so the statute of limitations has none anymore, so they go after him. This individual, I forget his name, financed that and many other things that are anti-Trump. But he's for Nikki Haley. That should speak volumes. The Democrats want Nikki Haley. And she's got a lot of money for a person that got less than 20% of the vote.
Would be the nominee. And so that does give him plenty of time to start to fundraise. And hopefully all of the candidates who decide to suspend their campaigns to cease will then show the support, the leading candidate. I think that's the key there. But conservatives, they have to think about the issues. And what was really interesting, what I saw last night, Todd, immigration edging out jobs in the economy is the number one motivating factor for Republican voters.
Number one issue for all voters across the political spectrum, immigration, or I should say illegal immigration. It's never really been fixed, even though it worked a lot better under Trump. There's huge loopholes in it. And right now, the Biden administration, as you've seen from all kinds of videos in airports, they're getting flights, $5,000 money on cards, $2,500 a month to live on, put up in hotels like in New York and Chicago, and they're screaming bloody murder because they can't afford it. They're human trafficking people, the Democrats. By sending them out like that, no name. In fact, some of the boarding passes had no name given on the boarding pass. Those are all facts. People are starting to wake up. Even CNN and NBC and ABC and CBS, not so much MSNBC, is starting to show the disaster that's been the illegal immigration for the last year, 2 years under Biden. So that is now the number one issue.
That bodes well for conservatives who actually have a plan, who have actually passed legislation to deal with our border crisis. And it bodes very poorly for President Biden, who has not done anything but actually allowed the border to become what it is right now.
Immigration topping economy by 8 whole points in Iowa. To your point, that is groundbreaking, and it just shows how frustrated the American people are with Joe Biden and the border. I think
now you're going to see a lot in New York and Chicago and the big cities that where these illegals are being sent, either by the Texas governor, but the vast majority are really being sent by the Biden administration from the border. Not just about money. It's about, give an example, in Brooklyn, I believe it was. They had to close the school and made all the students in the high school go remotely so they could house a couple of thousand migrants. I won't call them migrants. I'll call them illegal migrants. To house them there, to put the kids out of school. Now the parents are starting to wake up. In these large cities, large percent of the parents are minority parents, i.e. non-white, have voted Democrat for generations. Now they're starting to wake up. This immigration thing is going to burn the Democrats in the end. That's why the Republicans need to stick together. Let's listen on.
Joe Biden thinks he has an ace up his sleeve, if you will, with all the investigations into President Trump. That said, if you look at the results and you just listen to the populace, it seems like that strategy is 100% backfiring on the Democrats. And Mark Thiessen got to that point last night in explaining these results. Listen.
This was the first time that Trump supporters had a chance to step up and do something to express their solidarity with Donald Trump, and that's what they did in Iowa. So that it is absolutely a historic victory for Donald Trump. But let's keep in mind, it's 100,000 people. I mean,
now look at the numbers here. Ramaswamy, vast majority of his support are Trump people because he talks a lot like Trump. He believes in a lot of the same things. At least that's what he says. So we're going to take probably 6% out of that 7.7, which would give Trump 57%. That's over a 35-point victory. It's 30 right now. This, you say, well, John, it's only the first one. Oh, come on. New Hampshire's going to be close. And then there's a couple, there's a South Carolina coming up, and that's Nikki Haley's home state. Is she's the former governor? No. Trump's going to win in South Carolina, but not by 30 points, of course, because of Nikki Haley. That's not the point. The point is Trump's going to get the nomination. If these people really cared about the country and the Republican Party second, they would drop out now. Even if Trump is found guilty in any of these cases, one being civil, the other is criminal, he is not going to jail. It'll be appealed. He'll win all the cases in the end. The numbers won't change no matter how much they press on Trump. They simply won't change.
You were saying earlier today the over/under is 150,000. We're going to be, we're going to be under. They spent $124 million in ads, another $100 million in the ground game. So you're talking about $2.23 million per vote.
Yeah, $200 million in Iowa. Money they shouldn't have spent at all. They should have been bankrolling it. And raising more money and raising more money. Money does matter. Your message does too, but money does matter. You can't get your message out without money, without ground troops. And believe me, the progressive Democrats have more than enough volunteers because the vast majority of them do nothing. That's all they have. Their religion is politics.
That was spent in this state.
Okay, so there's the caveat that, yes, this wasn't a huge sample size, but Trump won by 30 points. This was the first opportunity for the people to use their democratic process to vote and tell the party establishment on both sides, but mostly the Democrat, hey, you're going after Donald Trump, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, and we don't like it. Are Democrats really, following last night's result, regretting their decision to go after Donald Trump through the courts?
Now, the decision to go after Donald Trump through the courts, now they paint themselves into a corner. They're the dog that caught the car. Dog barks at the car, the dog chases the car, the dog catches the car, and the dog stands there and goes, what do I do now? And that's what the dilemma the Democrats are in. They have no other plan besides maybe some chicanery and things I can't go into because this website won't allow it. But other than that, this civil and criminal trials are just horrendous. But the problem is for the Democrats, Trump seems to be stress-proof. If you remember something, too, not that I'm saying Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump are similar, but how they're being treated is similar. When Ronald Reagan first came up, he lost the primary in 1976. If you recall, he lost to the Gerald Ford. Okay, fine. Ronald Reagan comes around. The old school Republicans in what they call the rhinos today did not like Ronald Reagan at all. In fact, they got very little support for him. And we've seen how that worked out. He had a 49-state landslide in one election. So what the average Republican thinks that holds office right now doesn't really matter. It's the Republicans that are out in the country that matter, and they say we still want Trump.
I don't think so. I absolutely think that this is part of a strategy for them. And so we will see if a lot of even the charges end up becoming anything. We've seen certainly in Georgia the romantic sideshow that Fannie Willis has become. And so you'll start to see some of those things unravel. But, the political question is different from the legal question. And President Trump has a team that's fighting on his back. I do think it's interesting, though, that the fact that there seems to be so much fighting for it, that he's fighting so much, positions him as kind of a...
Now look at that, Paul. U.S.-Mexico border wall. This is from Iowa Republicans. Almost 3/4 strongly in favor, somewhat in favor. That makes it 88% are strongly in favor or somewhat in favor. 11% somewhat opposed, strongly opposed. Yeah. Immigration is a huge issue, and so is abortion.
Champion. And when you look at the exit polling and some of the questions that were asked, voters overwhelmingly said they want a champion, someone who's going to be a fighter for them. And it seems like President Trump was the one that they felt like is going to be a fighter for them, not just for himself. So it's going to...
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought in 2016, now we got all the way up to today, that billionaire real estate developer, playboy basically for a long time, almost lifelong Democrat, can have such a hold in a good way on the average working Republican and American, that they can associate with Donald Trump, the billionaire, the everyday blue collar worker. It's incredible what he's done. And he did a wonderful job as president. Might have been as articulate as some and might have made some really crappy personnel decisions on who he hired, but the country was humming along. And people remember that. And he even has a 51% share from the 25 to 34 age group, which is unheard of, especially for Donald Trump. He's finally broken the halfway point in that young demographic. And the Democrats see this and they're scared to death. Haley, DeSantis, drop out for the sake of the country.
It's going to be interesting. We've got a long way till November. Anything can happen. In 2020, we saw unexpected virus, hit our nation and the economy. Everything changed overnight in 1 month, and so anything can happen over the next few months. But I'm here along for the ride.
So there you have it. She's absolutely right. A lot can change. But one thing that hasn't changed is the base support for President Trump. And that's not going to change. Even with indictments, convictions, anything, DeSantis, Haley, unless you're doing it for the wrong reasons, get out of the race now. Throw your support behind Donald Trump. Nobody asked you to kiss his behind and campaign for him. Just don't stand in his way. He's going to win the nomination. In fact, it very well might be. He'll be convicted, criminally convicted. At the same time, he's standing at the convention accepting the Republican nomination. And wouldn't that be nuts? We have to stick together on this one. That's the one thing Democrats are really good at. Look at some of the votes in Congress. It makes for lousy legislatures, but makes for really good politics. Now is the time to stick together. I know it's like herding cats, but we're on the precipice of some huge change. We're going on a fork in the road. And once that decision is made which way we go, there's no coming back. There's too much at stake for your egos to get in the way. What do you think? And until next time, goodbye, God bless, and good luck.